I am a princess, weighing 200 jin, yet my closest confidante is hailed as the most exquisite beauty in the capital. She imparts to me the principles of aesthetics. The lighter the hue of the dress, the subtler the makeup. Only by dressing, thus can I appear truly elegant. I believed her. Just as I was preparing to attend the banquet, adorned in such attire, a sudden awakening of the plot struck me. It turns out I am but a stepping stone, a supporting female character in a transmigration tale. As the best friend of the transmigrated heroine, my role is to accentuate her brilliance, making her outshine flowers, supporting her presence, and offering warmth. After my betrothed falls in love with the transmigrated heroine, I am destined to be eliminated by the plot, making way for her. I am enraged. What transmigrated heroine? Begone with all of you. If I do not fully exploit and exhaust you, how can I claim the title of princess? The flower festival is approaching next month, and Huo Qiansao invited me to the fabric shop to select a gown for the banquet. She chose only plain-colored fabrics for me, pairing them with exceedingly light makeup. In Huo Qiansao's words, this is called a sense of refinement. Holding up a bolt of moonwhite satin before me, she smiled warmly. Sister, think about it, Tarrant. The stories in the scripts always like this. The heroine used to dress in reds and greens and was scorned for her appearance. Yet one day, she begins wearing simple, pure garments, and suddenly, everyone recognizes her beauty. I found her reasoning quite convincing, not because I truly agreed with it, but because there was a peculiar energy about Huo Qiansao that always compelled me to trust her. Qiansao favored plain clothing. She was the capital's foremost beauty. Her skin as flawless as ice, her bones like jade. A snow blue Lucienne dress only emphasized her delicate, willow-like grace, evoking pity at first glance. So beautiful, so kind. There was no doubt that following her counsel was wise. That was how I thought. Just as I was about to pay, the shopkeeper's daughter suddenly barred my way. Sister, you're so plump. You can't wear light colors anymore, or you'll look as fat as a woos big steamed bun this morning. The shopkeeper shot Awu a sharp glance, about to apologize, but Huo Qiansao interjected, first scolding. How dare you speak disrespectfully to Her Highness, the princess? Her Highness is of noble blood and jade-like grace. How could you possibly judge her? I frowned involuntarily. I was not angry. Yet Qiansao's words seemed to imply my princess arrogance. No sooner had this thought arisen than a sharp pain surged through my mind, immediately replaced by overwhelming guilt. How could I harbor such thoughts? Qiansao was my dearest friend. She was only defending me out of fear that I might be wronged. The shopkeeper was visibly shaken by Qiansao's words. Her knees buckled, and she knelt down. Mercy, Your Highness. Before I could urge her to rise, a reprimanding voice reached my ears. Princess Baohua, what are you doing again? The speaker was my betrothed, Pei Ye, whom I loved but could never have. Pei Yi spoke coldly. The princess is supported by the people and should benefit the populace. Yet, you are tyrannical and overbearing, oppressing others by force. You are unworthy of your royal rank. Upon hearing Pei Ye's insolence, my maid Tinglan's eyes filled with anger. She clenched her back teeth to keep silent, because I forbade her from speaking. In my heart, Pei Yi was sanctified, leaving no room for any words against him. No matter how resentful Ting Lan felt, she swallowed her rebuke, seeing Pei Yi glare at me with cold disdain. Hui Qiansao grasped the voluminous sleeve of his robe and coaxed him. Brother Pei, after all, sister is of noble blood and precious body. A bit of temper is only natural. Please don't be angry with her. All right. Qiansao's patient entreaties only made Pei Ye's gaze toward me grow icier. His scorn barely concealed when he heard noble blood and precious body. I hurriedly stepped forward to explain to Pei Yi that I did not blame the shopkeeper's family. Yet, as I reached to touch Pei Ye's garment, he instinctively shoved me away. Your Highness, Ting Lan cried out, quickly steadying me, but Pei Yi remained indifferent. My head throbbed as if pierced by needles, not because of Pei Ye's coldness, but because countless bizarre plot lines flooded my mind. This realm was none other than the script titled The Phoenix Soaring in the Nine Heavens. Huo Qiansao was the destined heroine. The novel recounted the story of a heroine from another world, endowed with a fate system, who possessed the body of the capital's most beautiful woman, Huo Qiansao. She battled her stepmother, exposed hypocrites, gained fame through poetry, forged alliances with royal courtiers, and fell in love with Pei Yi, a fallen noble scion. I was the bridge through which Huo Qianzhao befriended the royal courtiers. Hua Qianzhao was the merchant's daughter. To facilitate her exploits, the author cast me as her confidante. Once she secured her footing, I would naturally perish from obesity-related complications, allowing her to live happily with Pei Yi. I felt like a traveler lost in a dense fog who suddenly pierced the veil of confusion surrounding me. All the past absurdities found their explanations. I realized that Huo Qianzhao was no longer my friend. She had become a death talisman, resolute. I planned to have her sent away once I returned to the palace. Unexpectedly, upon forming this resolve, a fierce palpitating seized me. My heart felt gripped by a dreadful hand named Death itself. It seemed the rules of this world protected Huo Qianzhao. Should I threaten her life, this terror would first recoil upon me. Seeing my ashen face, Huo Qianzhao offered a sympathetic smile. Sister, your health is too frail. A mere breeze seems to topple you. You must eat more and nourish yourself properly. When she spoke, her apricot-shaped eyes sparkled with sincerity. Yet, Pei Yi, casting a disdainful glance at my frame broader than two Huo Qianzhao's, Combined revealed a flicker of revulsion. In truth, I had not always been so corpulent. Once, I could be described as a face like a silver basin, round and plump, possessing a beauty of fullness. But since meeting Hua Qianzhao, my body ballooned, as if inflated. Even a few extra steps left me breathless. Still, she insisted that I was more beautiful now. In the end, she would admonish me that, as a princess, I should not be defined by my weight nor swayed by others' gazes. Although her words were riddled with flaws, Huo Qianzhao possessed a certain magic that compelled belief. She shook my arm gently, her brows curved in earnest entreaty. Sister, the shopkeeper failed to properly educate her daughter. Let her atone by giving us these fabrics today. Considering that Awu is still young, you shouldn't be too harsh on her, all right? On the surface, she appeared concerned that I might punish the shopkeeper, thus preemptively settling on a mild penalty, lifting the fabrics high, then setting them down gently. Had this been before, I would have thought she acted for my benefit, letting me vent non-existent grievances while sparing me the ill repute of mistreating merchants. But after awakening to the plot, I understood she harbored no genuine concern for me. She merely used me as a raft to showcase herself. Pei Yi grasped the first layer of Hua Qianzhao's intent and looked at her with admiration. The two exchanged a knowing smile, their tacit understanding profound. The shopkeeper's gaze toward Hua Qianzhao was filled with gratitude. Silently thanking her great kindness, they completely forgot that it was she who first branded Awu with great disrespect. Noticing my prolonged silence, a subtle gleam of satisfaction flickered in Huo Qianzhao's eyes. She furrowed her brows disapprovingly. Sister children speak without restraint, and Awu's offense was unintentional. Must you really hold a grudge against a child? As she spoke, I glimpsed a flash of golden light flicker across her. Simultaneously, a strange, unfamiliar voice echoed from Huo Qianzhao. Ding, host displays justice and benevolence. Fate points +5. Title acquired the soul pure white jasmine. Wearing this title grants a 20% unconditional trust boost from NPCs. Could this be the so-called system mentioned in the storyline? The greatest reliance of Huo Qianqian. I have no idea why I suddenly awakened to the plot, nor why I could hear the system's voice. Amidst this sudden upheaval, I clenched my fingers tightly until the pain in my palm subdued my racing heartbeat, allowing my mind to regain clarity. Having remained silent for a long time, Hui Qianqian, enveloped in her saintly aura, was left standing aside, her expression tinged with grievance. Hey, yes, face darkened. He was about to speak in support when I cut him off. I am the youngest daughter of the emperor. Since when did I have a sister with a different surname? Hua Qianqian looked at me with a mixture of surprise and suspicion. In the past, I treated her sincerely, interacting on equal terms, never assuming the airs of a princess. But I did not look at her. Instead, I addressed the chief attendant. Please rise first. The ground is cold. Originally, the chief attendant knelt facing Hua Qian, but now, as if suddenly realizing something, she kowtowed thrice to me. I had Tinglan help her up, then plucked a hairpin from my coiffure and handed it to Awu. Those who dare to confront this palace's faults shall be rewarded. Awu, you acted rightly. This hairpin was crafted from pure gold, inlaid with a gradient of tourmalines in 7 hues, of considerable value. A flicker of golden light surrounding Hu Qian. Qian wavered. A faint, almost imperceptible shadow hovered above it, attempting to engulf the radiance, but the golden light continued to resist. I looked at Hu Chen, a faint, enigmatic smile playing on my lips. Miss Hua, when did I ever say they were in the wrong? The moment I spoke, the shadow bit into the golden light, causing it to dim for a fleeting instant. At that moment, the chief attendant belatedly perceived Hua Qian's act of digging a pit, only to fill it herself. Her expression changed abruptly, and she kowtowed again. This humble servant thanks Her Highness the Princess for her great kindness. No sooner had the chief attendant finished speaking than the strange voice echoed once more from Hua Qian. Warning, host has been proven wrong. Fortune value, -5. Title The Soul Pure White Jasmine. Revoke. Hua Qian's smile froze on her face. She bowed deeply. Sister, no, Your Highness, the Princess. It was Qian's transgression. Qian only feared Your Highness would be wrong, but did not expect that you would not need. At this point, Hu Qian fell silent. Tears streamed down her face like a string of pearls, as if overwhelmed by injustice and sorrow. The rest of her words were lodged in her throat, unable to be uttered. Pei Yi was deeply distressed, softly consoling her. What Hu Qian said afterward, I could no longer hear. I could only see from Pei Yi's expression a tenderness and warmth I had not witnessed in ages. Did it hurt? I asked myself. Once upon a time, Pei Yi had been the boy who accompanied me in flying kites and lighting palace lanterns, promising to protect me forever. But everything changed after Hu Qian appeared. I looked at Pei Yi numbly, watching him cherish the moonlight in his heart as one would a precious treasure. Yet, I felt no bitterness in my heart. It was as if years of infatuation and accommodation toward him had dissipated, like morning mist under the sun. The next day, the maid Qingru approached me, holding a large food box. Princess, Miss Huo personally prepared your favorite pastries. Qingru opened the box to reveal a bowl brimming with sugar cakes. Hua Chen often sent me snacks, which I once dearly loved. But upon closer reflection, it was after eating these cakes that my body grew increasingly heavy and my health deteriorated. I stared at Qingru. Did I not instruct you that I no longer wish to hear any news about Huo Qian? Did you not hear me? Scolded Qingru, instead appeared aggrieved. These were made by Miss Huo's own hands. Do you intend to reject her heartfelt kindness? Such a notion of rejecting Miss Huo's sincere affection. I frowned. It seems I have been too lenient with you, allowing you to forget who your mistress truly is. Qingru felt no guilt whatsoever. On the contrary, she wore an air of superiority and righteousness. Your Highness, you wrong, Qingru. I only wish to prevent the princess and those who truly care for you from growing apart. I sighed. Qingru, for your insolence, take her away. Administer 10 slaps and dismiss her from service. Tinglan took the order, and the other palace staff trembled. After all, Qingru had been my favorite maid, but Qingru was stubborn. Your Highness, even if you punish me, I must speak out. How can you treat Miss Huo in such a manner? Is she not your dearest friend? Though Qingru was my maid, her heart belonged entirely to Hua Qian, eventually following her into marriage. After I died from obesity, Pei Yi suddenly became steadfast and loyal, vowing never to marry, earning widespread praise both among the people and officials. My father, moved by Pei Yi's devotion and unwilling to see him alone for life, decided to grant him a marriage. Pei Yi replied that he had promised to take good care of Qian. To fulfill this vow, he would only marry Hua Qian. As for Qingru, she became the link between Pei Yi, Hua Qian, and my father, informing my father of their deep longing and unwavering affection for me, never once forgetting. As my most beloved palace attendant, my father believed Qingru's words. Whenever he heard her recount those fabricated stories, tears would stream down his face, and he would bestow generous rewards. I never expected to have nurtured such a treacherous servant. I snorted coldly and quietly instructed Tinglan, escort Qingru to the Department of Punishments, since she so cherishes Miss Hua's pastries. Let her have them all from now on. Hua Qianqian sending things to Qingru was a mere passing mention in the novel, yet I was curious under the strict palace rules. How exactly did Qingru, confined within the palace, manage to exchange them with her? Though Qingru was obstinate, she could not withstand half an hour under the harsh hands of the Department of Punishments, matrons. Soon, Wesk and Howis, she revealed everything clearly, what secret signals she and Hua Qianqian used, through whom the exchanges were made. Interestingly, Qingru had originally been slender, and the Department of Punishments was a grueling place. Yet since eating Hua Qianqian's cakes, not only did she not grow thinner, but she gradually grew plumper. The next time I saw Hu Qianqian was at the flower festival. Out of consideration for her heroine's aura, I did not intend to confront her before devising a strategy, but Hua Qianqian insisted on provoking me. She somehow learned about my slapping of Qingru. It seemed that Hua Qianqian had already infiltrated my surroundings like a sieve. Fortunately, she did not know that Qingru had been sent to the Department of Punishments, which at least meant Tinglan was trustworthy. Under the sunlight, Hua Qianqian appeared as the embodiment of justice, solemn and untouchable. How can you cruelly abuse Qingru without cause? Even as a princess, you cannot treat people so recklessly. In just a few words, she pinned the label of mistreating palace staff on me. While saying this, Hua Qianqian's entire head radiated golden light, influenced by her aura. The noble ladies and young masters attending the banquet all wore expressions of approval. Simultaneously, 2 system messages issued from her. Ding. Host displays righteousness and benevolence. Fortune value plus 20. Fortune value can be exchanged for items in the store. Title acquired the clear soup. Elder wearing this title increases respect from NPCs of different factions by 20%. I frowned and denied, Miss Hua. I do not know what nonsense you are spouting. Are you aware of the grave offenses of insubordination and falsely accusing the royal family? Hua Qianqian, confident I would not admit, presented a logically airtight case with abundant witnesses and evidence, fully proving my slapping of Qingru. I also, as desire, learned more about the hidden traps Hua Qianqian had planted around me. Suppressing a smile, I nodded. I admit, the punishment of Qingru did indeed occur. Having achieved her objective, Hua Qianqian, like a loyal and courageous scholar official, seemed eager to continue her performance of admonishment. Before she could utter a word, I gently interrupted. However, Miss Hua, you are mistaken in thinking Qingru is innocent. She presented me with food of unknown origin without the Imperial Medical Bureau's approval, nor was it tested for poison by palace attendants. This suggests an intent to harm the heir to the throne, a crime warranting the extermination of her entire family. Yet, I merely administered 10 slaps as a mild warning. I fail to understand why you would accuse me of wantonly taking lives. Those nearby all praised Princess Bao Hua's virtue, while some wore expressions of concern, advising that a servant like Qingru should not remain by my side. When Hu Qianqian heard food of unknown origin, her complexion shifted, though she knew better than to admit the pastries were her own creation, lest the situation become even more inexplicable. She had not anticipated that this time I would use her to bolster my reputation. Yet, adaptable and resilient, upon realizing this battle was lost, she curved her brows into a smile, clapped her hands softly, and said, "So that is the case. Your Highness, Princess, your benevolence puts Qianqian at ease." The girl's smile appeared genuine, as if she truly cared about my reputation. I, however, abandoned my previous gentleness and spoke sternly. Miss Hua, you have clarified one matter, but I have yet another question. You reside far outside the palace. Yet how is it that you know my private affairs so thoroughly? I fixed my gaze upon her, allowing no room for evasion, and pronounced each word deliberately. Spying on my schedule, bribing my palace attendants, what are your true intentions? Miss Hua, everyone knows how to cast aspersions. Who doesn't? Hua Qianqian could not comprehend why I persisted relentlessly, showing her no courtesy. Her delicate face paled as she bit her lip, unsure how to respond. Those who had just shown her favor now regarded her as a harbinger of misfortune, and she could only cast beseeching glances toward Peiyi. She was indeed beautiful, with eyes like autumn waters, gazing imploringly imploringly at him, reminiscent of a fledgling sparrow drenched by a torrent, evoking a stirring tenderness in anyone who met her gaze. Pei, yes, heart softened at the sight, and a sudden urge to protect her recklessly surged within him. He flung the sandalwood box he had been holding to the ground and barked, "Jiang Baohua, you have gone too far." The sandalwood box crashed down with a sharp clatter. Everyone was taken aback. Before all eyes, the lid was flung open, and from within tumbled out a sachet embroidered with twin lotuses, two blossoms, united as one, smiling amid ripples on Luos shore. I had painstakingly embroidered it myself for Pei Yi, a symbol of my hope to be forever united with him. Fearing he might refuse, I had placed the sachet inside the sandalwood box, along with many other gifts, which I then sent to Pei, yes, residents. Yet, to my surprise, Pei Yi had taken it out. Now, without mercy, he cast my heartfelt offering onto the ground in full view of everyone. Hua Qianqian feigned alarm, glanced pointedly at me, then tugged Pei, yes, sleeve in a soft, coaxing voice. "Brother Pei, your highness will be upset. The best way to cover up a minor mishap is to create a greater one." Hua Qianqian knew Pei Yi was my vulnerability. As long as he was dragged into the fray, my emotions would be entangled. No matter how grievous my grievances, I would yield for him. So, this time, she believed she could extricate herself smoothly. But what if I no longer pined for him? Then, this tactic would fail. The sachet and the other gifts were all presented in my name as princess. Though termed gifts, they were in fact imperial rewards. Pei, yes, discarding of my items could be interpreted in various ways. At worst, it was an act of disrespect toward the royal family. I asked Ting Lan, "What is the punishment for disrespecting the royal family?" A flicker of disbelief flashed in Ting Lan's eyes, which widened, receiving my approving glance. She stifled her tumultuous feelings and replied cautiously, "Your Highness, disrespecting the royal family is a capital offense." Pei Ye had always been unruly before me. He sneered, "Princess Baohua, you have quite the temper. The Pei family has served the court for generations. I doubt you can condemn me on mere words." Sunlight outlined his figure, a young man of integrity, unafraid of authority, while the exquisite girl beside him gazed with luminous eyes, like a delicate clematis unable to fend for itself. The scene was as picturesque as a painting. Yet I knew Pei, yes, impudence, stemmed only from being spoiled. Indeed, Pei Gongzi is well versed in the law. I smiled wryly and nodded. According to the laws of our great Zhou, before the court of justice passes judgment, I cannot sentence you to death. Pei, yes, expression said, "Just as I thought." Before he could grow arrogant, I shifted tone. "But your repeated offenses are indisputable." Pei Yi showed no fear, even a trace of mockery. "And what can you do to me?" I snorted coldly and drew out the princess edict from my sleeve. "Ting Lan, hear my command. Pei Yi has repeatedly defied the princess, spoken disrespectfully, and shown no reverence. Yet in my benevolence, I impose a mild penalty, 10 strokes, as a warning." Pei, yes, disdain faded into ugliness the moment he saw the edict. "Jiang Baohua, you dare." The princess edict was an imperial decree issued in my capacity as Princess Baohua, not to be disobeyed. I shook my head, pitying him. Pei Yi is incorrigible and obstinate, having wasted my goodwill. "Very well, Ting Lan, increase it to 20 strokes." A servant quickly fetched a sturdy cane and handed it to Ting Lan. Ting Lan had long harbored dislike for Pei Yi. After several strokes, Pei Yi emitted a muffled groan, cold sweat beading on his forehead. Had I still loved him, seeing him in such pain would have broken my heart. But now, I felt nothing indeed. I even wished to hasten his departure from this world. I concentrated inwardly. There was no discomfort, none of the terrifying sensations I had felt when contemplating violence toward Ho Qianqian. "Stop hitting him." Huo Qianqian collapsed onto Pei Yi, tears streaming down in great drops, soaking her garment. She looked up at me, eyes full of accusation. "Sister, your highness, all the fault is mine. Please, do not strike Brother Pei. If you must punish someone, punish me instead. I am willing to take his place." Pei Yi furrowed his brow and growled, "Qianqian, you're such a fool. How could I bear to see you get hurt?" I wished to test the limits of the heroine's halo and said, "You can't take his place, but you can be punished alongside him." Huo Qianqian, fragile and delicate, soon fainted. At that moment, a system voice sounded from her. "Warning. Host has been slapped in the face. Fortune value, -20. Title plain soup. Grandmaster revoked. Hearing such words and recalling the previous incident at the cloth shop, I suddenly understood. That day's original plot in the cloth shop was supposed to have a Wu confront me, with Huo Qinqian rescuing the shopmaster and daughter, thereby gaining reputation points. Today, during the flower festival, Huo Qinqian was stepping on me to earn herself a reputation for kindness to servants. Yet both times, I disrupted the storyline, causing the rewards to be revoked. Therefore, I hound Fanas. Reducing the fortune value is the key to breaking the cycle. Tinglan asked, Your Highness, shall we continue? I was about to say yes, but that indescribable unease returned, so I relented. It seemed this heroine's halo was not something to be easily overcome. It required gradual strategy. Upon returning to the princess residence, my father summoned me for questioning. I knew he must have learned of my use of private punishment. I was my father's late-born daughter. Though over 60, my father remained vigorous and diligent in the imperial study. He calmly reviewed memorials and upon my arrival did not glance at me. I feigned oblivion to his coldness, shamelessly approached and knelt beside him, shaking his knee. My father, the emperor, knew I was trying to shirk the interrogation, so he simply ignored me, inhaling the familiar scent of dragon amber on his person. A mingling wave of grievance and injustice surged within my heart. My entire life has been a farce, merely existing to craft a bridal gown for Huo Qianshan. Ever since I learned of the plot, that sense of bewilderment and unease, like walking on thin ice, has gnawed at me like a persistent parasite. Originally, I only wished to shed a few tears to elicit my father's pity, but unexpectedly, my sobs grew more heartfelt, leaving me nearly breathless. Seeing my genuine sorrow, my father hastily set down his brush and coaxed me gently. Who has wronged my little daughter? I attempted to reveal the storyline to him, but as expected, I could not utter a single word. Truly, there is no shortcut. I must not engage in any act that could directly endanger Huashan's life, lest I perish before her. Thus, I changed my words. It was Pei. He wronged his daughter, and she wishes to break their betrothal. The PA family had once been prominent ministers of the former dynasty. When they pledged allegiance to our great Zhou, their entire clan was spared. However, the founding emperor despised vassals of two surnames and never entrusted the PA family with significant power. Subsequently, the PA family produced no figures capable of turning the tide, and their influence waned with the fall of the previous dynasty. But in generation, owing to his favor with me, the PA family gradually began to rise again. Father did not inquire further and sighed. My daughter, you have grown up. The PA family is indeed not a fitting match for my son. Pei Yi was publicly punished by me with a cane and then disavowed. Everyone knew he had offended Princess Baohua, and for a time, the Pei family's halls were desolate. Meanwhile, Hua Qianshan's reputation soared throughout the capital. The cause was that several scholars preparing for the imperial examination had stumbled upon a few manuscripts. Though the handwriting was careless, the verses were hailed as timeless masterpieces. One scholar was so astounded, he regarded them as kindred spirits and, through connections in the capital, sought diligently to discover the author's identity, but to no avail. Yet during this process, those poems spread widely, eagerly copied by many. The capital's paper became scarce after countless calls and widespread anticipation. Hui Kuanshan appeared shy and hesitant. At first, some doubted she had claimed others' verses or that the Huas family had hired a ghostwriter to elevate her status. But when Huo Qianshan composed a poem on the spot within 7 steps, all skeptics were trampled beneath the weight of truth. Talented scholars from all quarters genuinely admired her genius. Many were candidates for this year's imperial examination, including several frontrunners for the top 3 ranks. A chill ran through my heart. If those admirers of Huo Qianshan truly entered the court, it would be utterly irreversible. After much deliberation, I resolved to take the initiative against Huo Qianshan. I wagered that those verses could not have been penned by her. The customs of Great Zhou were enlightened, with no strict barriers between men and women. Hua Qianshan frequently appeared at various poetry gatherings, accumulating fortune points. When I arrived at the elegant pavilion hosting the poetry event, Hua Qianshan was winning unanimous applause with the line, "Autumn waters merge with the vast sky. The setting glow flies with the lone wild goose." A system notification chimed from her. Ding! The host has earned the admiration of a scholar. Fortune points, 30. Awarded the title Poetry Immortal descends. Wearing this title increases respect from NPCs of the same faction by 20%. Huo Qianshan's smile froze the moment she saw me. The next second, before all the scholars, she knelt hastily, "Your Highness, though Qianshan does not know what she has done wrong. If I have displeased you, it must be my fault. Please." Tears welled in her eyes, like a delicate flower battered by a sudden tempest. Her voice quivered as she slowly uttered two words, "Punish me." Wow, Qianshan truly had mastered a single move to perfection. In just 2 sentences, she had turned everyone against me, seeing their revered poetry immortal bullied by me. The villainous princess. The scholars dared not voice their anger, but their eyes burned with resentment, suppressing my nausea. I helped Huo Qianshan to her feet. "Miss Huo, I do not understand your words. I admire your talent immensely. Why would I punish you?" Tears brimmed in Huo Qianshan's eyes, just as she was about to continue her performance. I interrupted. Taking my seat at the main position, I kindly inquired, "Miss Huo, your scholarship is profound. What books do you usually study?" I dared come here today to confront Huo Qianshan because half the verses circulating were incomplete mere fragments of brilliance. It resembled a lazy student who years later only remembers snippets from books. Seeing my genuine intent to test her, Hua Qianshan furrowed her delicate brows and racked her brain to name a few titles. The 4 books and 5 classics. Women's instructions, women's rules, women's admonitions. Miss Huo's erudition is vast. You are being modest. The scholars nearby nodded in agreement. No one believed such a great talent had only read those few books. A bad premonition flashed in Huo Qianshan's mind, but she forced a smile and echoed politely, "Your Highness overpraises me. Today is a poetry gathering. I shall also seek your wisdom." I continued. "The book says heaven's mandate is called nature. Following nature is called the way. Cultivating the way is called teaching. What is your interpretation?" Hua Qianshan. She stammered for a long time, but could not answer, looking at me with pleading eyes. "I am but a humble woman, unworthy to display my ignorance before your Highness." Feigning ignorance of her embarrassment, I laughed heartily. "Today, we discuss only knowledge, not rank." She wished to seek help from the scholars, but found their gazes no longer hostile. The question I posed was the opening line of the doctrine of the mean. Easy, even for a child who had just begun schooling. To onlookers, I appeared to be elevating Huo Qianshan by asking such a simple question. Henceforth, she could not only clear her name of enmity with me, but also gain my endorsement. Huo Qianshan was on the brink of tears. Her face flushed like a ripe peach, yet others mistook it for shyness and continued to encourage her. The youth nearest to her whispered urgently, "Miss Huo, what a wonderful opportunity. Please answer quickly." Hua Qianshan. Her expression told me she wished to respond, but could not. I smiled sympathetically. "This may be a bit difficult. Let me rephrase. From which book does that sentence come?" She gritted her teeth and said, "I recently fell into water and have been weak. I feel somewhat dizzy now." Even the sharpest observer sensed something amiss. Her earlier poetic performance hardly suggested weakness. The golden light surrounding her flickered precariously. Pursued and cornered by a shadowy force, I smiled cruelly, "Little sister, having thoroughly studied those 2 books of the 4 books and 5 classics, you must surely know that line comes from the 5 classics." Huo Qianshan was truly panicked. Clutching at straws, she stammered, "Yes, of course, I know." At that moment, the faces around her changed completely. The 4 books and 5 classics are not 2 books. The doctrine of the mean is not part of the 5 classics. It was a fundamental error. Finally, I heard the voice I sought from Huo Qianshan. "System warning. Host has been slapped in the face. Fortune points, -30. Title Poetry Immortal descends revoked." Hua Qianshan closed her eyes and collapsed to the ground. I had thought that once Hua Qianshan fell from grace in the scholar's eyes, it would be difficult for her to rise again, but she proved far more tenacious than I imagined. She was even summoned into the palace. Father hosted a banquet for the ministers, and Hua Qianshan, renowned as the capital's most beautiful woman, was invited to perform a dance. She innovatively combined dance with calligraphy. At the dance's conclusion, her poetry was presented upon Father's desk. The poem was exquisitely crafted. She proceeded to critique all the renowned benevolent emperors and sage monarchs of our history in turn, and with the final 2 lines, to count the illustrious figures, look no further than the present age. She won my father's heart completely. Father, moved by a newfound appreciation for talent, took it upon himself to personally examine Hui Qianxian. Huo Qianxian glanced at me, her eyes betraying a barely concealed gleam. The next moment, the system's voice rang out. Ding! The host expends 50 points of fortune to redeem the item, the library pavilion. The library pavilion is stored within the host's mind, a vast repository of books embracing all knowledge, available for the host's instant consultation. This time, when facing Father's questions, Hua Qianxian answered fluently, as if her previous blunder had been nothing but an accident. The system announced, Ding, the host is well-read and knowledgeable, responding smoothly before the imperial court. Fortune points 100. Awarded the title the Emperor's favor. Wearing this title increases all NPCs' respect for you by 100%. It was evident that Father was greatly pleased with Huo Qianxian. Just as Father was about to praise her, I feigned innocence and asked Miss Huo, you are truly remarkable. Were all these poems composed on the spot just now? Huo Qianxian did not grasp my implication, but confident in her advantage, she answered firmly, Your Highness. Yes, I smirked inwardly. That was precisely the response I sought. I smiled at Father and said, Father, it is rare to have such refined interest today, and with a poetic muse like Miss Wall by our side, why don't we? I paused briefly to look at Huo Qianxian. Her eyes brimmed with mockery, certain that no matter what I did, today would be a triumph for her. I met her gaze and continued, emulate the Ancestral Poetry Society by issuing random topics, random themes, random rhymes, random rhyme endings, and random tonal patterns, and hold a contest. With every word I uttered, Hua Qianxian's expression grew colder until finally she staggered backward. Father indulged me with a fond smile, agreed. I can find Huo Qianxian in every direction. Though she possessed the library pavilion, after scouring the books, her compositions were merely a patchwork, her standard plummeting. Father's complexion shifted slightly. Any discerning observer knew that her previous performance had not been spontaneous, but well prepared in advance. This was a crime of deceiving the sovereign. My exposure of her trick once again stripped her fiat. The look Huo Qianxian cast at me was no longer the usual innocent disguise, but filled with hatred, blunt and venomous. Yet there was not a trace of despair. A sense of dissonance surged within me. Father detests being manipulated, yet, just now, Huo Qianxian almost secured his excellent appraisal, effectively using him as a shield. Father, unwilling to lose face, refrained from publicly rebuking her, but among the ministers present, who was not astute? After today, none would dare to sing praises of Hua Qianxian again. Why then did she not despair? Something was amiss. It was truly unsettling. I had only awakened to my own storyline. The subsequent developments between Pei Yi and Huo Qianxian remained unknown to me. Suddenly, Hast West, a thunderclap exploded in my mind as a neglected detail surfaced. The title of this book was The Phoenix Cry Across the 9 Heavens. I had assumed this world centered on Hua Qianxian, hence her being called the Phoenix. But the Phoenix also symbolizes the Empress, the motherly sovereign of the realm. Could it be that Huo Qianxian's ultimate destiny was to enter the palace as my consort among my 3,000 wives? Father's mood soured, and he left early naturally. I followed, not forgetting to stoke the fire. Father, why was it that Ho's answers flowed so smoothly with your prior questions? But when given random topics, she was struck dumb. I knew Huo Qianxian had this system, but Father did not. Between the lines, I was hinting to Father to investigate whether anyone around him was colluding with Huo Qianxian. Father saw through my intention at once, tapping my forehead lightly with his finger child. If you have any schemes, just say so. Why play these winding games with your father? I seized the opportunity to act coquettish. Pei fails to appreciate me and often embarrasses his daughter. Yet, he favors Huo. I simply despise them all. Father laughed, his white beard trembling with amusement. My words were hardly clever, but to father, they were just right. He was naturally suspicious, and even his feelings toward his children were distant. He was more like a sovereign than a father. But I, as the youngest child and a princess, was the only one before whom he was a tender parent, riding the good mood. I nestled my face in father's embrace and asked for a few more trusted secret guards. Father readily agreed. With reinforcements, I set forth to investigate. I was determined to see precisely what they intended to do. As a member of Qingru's main circle, my fondness for her had once been scripted. I leaked news of Qingru's imprisonment. Soon, this seemingly idle move hooked a live fish. Pei Yes personal guard, Zhang He risked his life to break into the prison, but was captured by my men. In Huo Qianxian's words, Qingru and Zhang He were a secondary couple. After Huo Qianxian's marriage, Qingru was paired off as Zhang He's wife. With Zhang, he arrested. Pei Yi finally grew restless and came to demand their release. Before me, Pei Yi was always composed. He lifted his chin calm and collected. I kindly request Her Highness the Princess to release Zhang He and Qingru. His condescending demeanor suggested that merely stepping into my princess residence graced it with splendor. I cast a glance at Tinglan, who immediately caught my meaning. She scolded the gatekeeper. How can our princess residence allow just any stray dog or cat in? Get them out at once. Pei Yes expression stiffened, and though furious enough to storm off, he took several deep breaths and snorted coldly. According to the laws of our great Zhou, I fear the princess lacks the authority to detain her subjects' men. Seeing him ready to spout legalese again, I smiled wryly. I had thought he was a mere vagrant, but it turns out he is a man of Master Pei. So, the Pei family openly flouts the law by breaking into the prison. Pei Yi was once more at a loss for words. I regarded him leisurely. In the dungeon, Zhang He insisted he was only Qingru's lover and had no connection to Pei Yi, fearing to implicate him. If Pei Yi acknowledged Zhang He, I could consign him to the dungeon to keep company with Zhang He and Qingru. Then, I could put him through harsh interrogation, saving myself the trouble of further investigation. Pei Yi no longer regarded me with his chin raised. His eyes blazed with fury. Yet, as he looked on, something seemed to strike him, and his expression softened. After giving up Huo Qianxian's pastries, I began to lose weight. Now I was no longer the plump princess who would gasp after walking a few steps. I brought Awu back to the princess residence. She brought a cart full of ready-made garments, laying them out one by one before the mirror, comparing them on me and explaining aesthetic principles. Inspired by Awu, I realized that Huo Qianxian's features were cool and aloof, suited to plain colors, while the clothes that suited Metho, she called them gaudy and vulgar wear, actually bright and vivid. Logically, as a princess, I should not lack basic aesthetic sense, but my role was to be Huo Qianxian's stepping stone, standing beside her. I was meant to make her look like a picturesque beauty, a delicate willow swaying in the breeze. Now, standing before Pei Yi, I had reverted to the beautiful, healthy Princess Baohua I had been at the start. Pei Yi smiled charmingly, believing himself to be effortlessly flirtatious, all conveyed in the arch of his brow. Baohua, you need not pretend to be at odds with me. I know this is a game of playing hard to get. A woman adorns herself for the one she desires. Your efforts to become beautiful aren't they just to win me back? Though Pei Yi had not smiled at me in a long time, this smile disgusted me. Could it be that after I publicly beat him, he still thought I liked him? My stunned silence he mistook for shyness. He fancied himself as having seen through everything. I know the reason you target Huo Qianxian is because you love me. Pei Yi grew increasingly confident as he spoke. It's just that you are too willful. If you could show even a fraction of Qianxian's gentleness, I might consider giving you a proper status. After all, what man doesn't have multiple wives and concubines? I could hardly believe my ears. The young man I once held dear, could he really be such a scoundrel? Could this truly be the power of the narrative? A wave of dizziness washed over me, and I felt slightly nauseous. My expression seemed to pierce Pei Yi, who snorted coldly. Zhang Baohua, I'm giving you a way out. If you don't step down now, that path will be gone soon enough. I grasped Ting Lan's hand for me, beat him to a pulp with sticks. Veins bulged on Pei Yi's forehead. Whoever dares lay a hand on me within the princess residence. The spies loyal to Pei and Hua had long been removed by me, and now my orders flowed unhindered. Soon, the clever young attendants fetched long sticks and dealt harsh blows to Pei Yi's backside. Pei Yi had no time for threats. He fled in panic. After sobering up from the absurdity Pei Yi had brought me, I regained my composure. Like Huo Qianxian, Pei Yi was also deeply amiss. His confidence was excessive. Even if he firmly believed I still loved him, he would not be so brazen. What secret leverage did they possess that I was unaware of? At that moment, the covert guards assigned to monitor Hua Chenxian intercepted a secret letter. It listed over a dozen types of medicinal herbs. I summoned the imperial physicians to examine the prescription, but none had ever seen it before. Judging by the numerous herbs that moisten the lungs, relieve coughs, clear heat, and detoxify, it could only be inferred as a remedy to suppress an epidemic. My eyelid twitched. An epidemic. I instructed the covert guards to return the letter to its original place and to closely monitor market trends. Since Huo Qianxian was confined at home, I needed to know through whom she would procure the herbs. Then, I proceeded to the palace to pay homage to my father, the emperor. The covert guards had been assigned to me by the emperor himself. What I knew naturally, the emperor knew as well. When I met the emperor, I still refrained from bowing, behaving as coquettishly and foolishly as usual. Yet the emperor's expression did not soften. He asked Baohua, "What is it that you desire?" Baohua was my official title. My father usually called me Nan, rarely addressing me so formally. Feigning ignorance of his admonishment, I instead requested from him a ruthless interrogator skilled in extracting confessions. The emperor regarded me deeply and granted my request. I ordered the interrogator to pry open the mouth of Qingru Zhanghe. Whether life or death, it mattered not. The sky was clear and boundless, yet beneath the tranquil lake's surface, turbulent currents surged. Many seemingly unrelated individuals began to purchase the herbs listed in the secret letter in unison. Some even started stockpiling grain. No one bought in bulk. Their actions were covert. Had I not closely monitored market movements, I might have mistaken this for ordinary procurement. They shared another common trait. These goods, transported by water or land, via official roads or hidden paths, were all destined for Zhang'an. A foreboding feeling stirred within me. At that time, heavy rains had fallen over Jiangyan for 3 days and nights without ceasing. Yet, the court remained unconcerned. The dikes in Jiangnan had been reinforced only last year. There was no risk of breach. Coincidentally, many officials in charge of the waterways were connected to the buyer-scyther disciples or close friends. Rain rivers, dikes plague grain. I felt as though I had guessed the story's forthcoming chapters. When I saw the emperor again, I no longer coquetted, but performed a proper bow. The emperor did not grant me permission to rise. I presented a memorial. After reading it, the emperor flung the memorial at my forehead. I neither dodged nor flinched, letting the document strike me squarely. Within the memorial was a clear record of the deeds of Pei Yi and his cohorts. They intended to breach the Jiangnan dikes, deliberately causing floods. They conspired with local wealthy merchants to destroy the dikes and flood the fields, seizing land and inciting the disaster-stricken populaces' resentment toward the court. It was easy to foresee they would portray the relentless rain as divine punishment, and themselves as savior bodhisattvas. A war was on the verge of eruption. The emperor asked me the same question again. Baohua, what do you wish to do? I lowered my head. Last time, he asked what I intended to do. This time, he asked what kind of person I aspired to be. If I wished to be the doted-upon, naive daughter, these matters would not be reported to the emperor by me. If I were obedient and compliant, I should inform the crown prince first and let him report. But I did not trust the crown prince. While tracing the buyers upward, I even discovered the crown prince's involvement, coupled with the name Phoenix singing in the 9 heavens. I speculated the crown prince might have struck some deal with Pei and Hua, but ultimately found nothing. Only when Pei Yi usurped the court and Hua Chenxian ascended to power did the tone of this novel's first half align. I knelt, answering word by word. Baohua is the emperor's child, a child who could inherit the throne. not merely a coquettish, foolish daughter. The founding emperor of the great Zhou dynasty was a female sovereign. Women could inherit the throne. At this moment, the warmth in the emperor's eyes vanished completely. I knew the days of filial affection between father and daughter were over. He had become a lofty yet boundlessly lonely monarch. After that day, the emperor feigned illness and confined me within the palace. The crown prince bribed the palace maids, but only learned that the emperor was ill from anger caused by me, and that I had fallen out of favor. A few days later, news arrived of the Jiangnan dikes breaching and the disaster victims rebelling. The emperor fainted in court from the shock. The imperial physicians told the crown prince the emperor's time was near. The crown prince mobilized troops, but not to quell the rebellion in Jiangnan. Instead, he besieged the Daming Palace where the emperor resided. He intended to force a coup. The crown prince never expected the emperor, who should have been at death's door, to stand armored in the hall's center. There was no sign of imminent demise. The crown prince realized his plan had been exposed. He looked at the emperor and smiled bitterly. Father, I have sat in this position for 30 years. Who in the world remains crown prince for 30 years? Like the last month before the imperial examinations, he had endured a full 30 years. A suffocating existence with no ascent or descent would drive anyone mad. The emperor's gaze remained cold, yet I clearly saw his hands clenched into trembling fists behind his back. The crown prince was his firstborn once. He had harbored the most beautiful hopes of a father for his son, but as time passed, he feared his son's incompetence, yet also feared his son's competence. Now utterly defeated, the crown prince seemed to revert to the child years ago, clutching his knees and calling father. I knew this aging monarch's heart had softened with pity, yet given the current situation, the crown prince and I were mortal enemies. If he lived, I would face endless future troubles. I removed all my hairpins, letting my ebony tresses cascade like a waterfall. The emperor's voice rang sharply. Baohua, what exactly do you intend to do? I steeled my heart and knelt at the emperor's feet. Father, I cast off my hairpins in penitence, only to say this to the crown prince. Pei, yes, faction has all been arrested by me. Your reinforcements will not come. The crown prince's face flickered with astonishment. The emperor's hawk-like gaze did not miss the fleeting expression on the crown prince's face. This was enough to prove the crown prince had merely sought to buy time, conspiring to coordinate with the Jiangnan rebels. Having lost the emperor's final mercy, the crown prince truly had no way out. Knowing the tide had turned, the crown prince drew his sword, its tip aimed directly at Majiang Baohua. Pei Yi has accompanied you since childhood for the throne. You have even severed ties with him. How then are you any different from me? What right do you have to pass judgment upon me? He was unwilling to accept it. He had been crown prince for 30 years. Yet in the end, I turned the tables on him. I understood the suffocating bitterness of being used by others to make their wedding garments, but I felt no sympathy for him. I spoke in a low, resolute voice, precisely because I will never collude with the remnants of the previous dynasty, nor will I, for selfish desires, gamble with the lives of the people. The crown prince's complexion turned ashen. So, you knew all along. All those involved in the case were, to varying degrees, connected to officials of the former dynasty. Combined with Zhang He's testimony, I finally pieced together the crucial link in this puzzle. Pei Yi was a descendant of the previous royal family. The Pei family had submitted to the Great Zhou solely to preserve the bloodline of the former dynasty, and my tragic fate stemmed from being a princess of the Great Zhou, inherently standing opposed to the protagonists. Pei Yi sought to restore his kingdom. The crown prince aspired to ascend the throne. They exploited each other, each believing the other to be a mere stepping stone. Only the people of Jiangnan, bewildered and confused, became the collateral victims of this power struggle. The crown prince burst into laughter, placing his long sword across his neck. Baohua, after today, my wife and children will perish by your hand, but my grandson is still an infant, a blank slate. Father, emperor, he is also your legitimate great-grandson. The crown prince took his own life, preserving his family while drawing an even deeper chasm of blood between my father and me. I swore to treat the late Crown Prince's family with kindness. My father only cast me a deep, lingering glance and said nothing. Kneeling on the ground, all I could see was my father's once upright silhouette, now stooped into the form of an old man, without my noticing when the change had taken place. Jiangnan had not rebelled. The news that initially reached the Eastern Palace was false. Under my watchful eyes, just as Pei Yai prepared to go to Jiangnan, I detained him in the heavenly prison. His skin was bruised and yellowed, no longer bearing the spirited demeanor he once had. Yet, he revealed the faint smile I remembered. He poured out his heart to me. Bao Huthi, old man's voice, was soft, yet remarkably clear. Indeed, it is time for us to return home.